Hi guys, I'm back for the second episode of my brain tumor diary, and today I'm going to continue with my story about my diagnosis and how I found out about the brain tumor. In the last episode I think I finished around the time when they gave me the diagnosis on the Sunday, 24th of February, and they asked me to go back to the hospital on the Monday, the following day, 25th of February. So what I did, I went back. I was a bit worried about what they were going to say. I was still hoping maybe they made a mistake or whatever. But then the second scan confirmed the result, and it wasn't a nice feeling. I was sitting there in the waiting room waiting for the scan result. Then the junior doctor called me into the meeting room. She pulled the curtain closed, and then she said the result showed a brain tumor the size of an apple, 6 centimeter by 4 centimeter by 4 centimeter, which is about 10% of the brain. I'm actually surprised I still function fine. And by the way, if you've just been diagnosed with a brain tumor and you need inspiration, watch a movie called The Passenger, because in my opinion, that spaceship in the universe flying around with a huge hole in its side is exactly like the brain of a person, because it redirects functionalities around the spaceship until it nearly breaks down. But for that period, it works completely fine, and I think the brain is very similar. It functions as long as the brain tumor is small enough to allow it to function. But I guess the problem is when the tumor reaches a size when it takes over too much of the brain's functionalities, and then that's when death occurs. But anyway, what I was going to say, I've got a list here actually, because I can't remember any of it. Yes, I was going to talk about the things that went through my head at the time. Well, first of all, I was completely shocked, and I asked the doctor if she could tell me more about it, but she said she would prefer not to tell me anything because she was just a junior doctor. And on Friday that same week, the multidisciplinary board would meet, and they would discuss everybody's case from that week, and unfortunately I would have to wait until then. I was thinking on my feet, and I asked her to give me a printout of the scan result and the documentation, but then she was like, maybe that's not a good idea. But anyway, I told her then that I would rather take a picture of the screen then if she can't print it. But then suddenly she figured out how to print the text document, but she couldn't print the picture. So I just went over with my iPhone and I took a picture of the tumor on the screen. Now, the feelings I had were probably like, my goodness, that can't be my brain. I mean, my job, I'm an analyst, and I look at huge Excel files with millions of cells. I talk to people over the phone around the world and everything. I give presentations, and I never had any problem. Well, I've been doing it for 10 years, not a single problem. Never even suspected I had a brain tumor. So it was just basically a lighting out of the blue. Well, that chat with the doctor lasted about 20-25 minutes. Then she told me to leave because I suppose she had other patients to look after. But then she gave me a telephone number to call if I was in doubt or I needed to talk to somebody. And that nurse was actually very helpful, so I phoned her a couple of days later. But I felt really fortunate because I wasn't in pain and the weather was amazing. So I went cycling to Richmond Park like I was planning. But this time I was actually aware of the brain tumor and I knew what was wrong with me. So I sat down on a bench and I guess I just broke down crying. And then I started walking, then I called my brother, my sister, etc. Sitting on that bench, I just thought, my goodness, I'm going to die soon. I'm not going to be able to go to this place, that place, whatever. Everything that came to my mind, I thought that was going to be the last thing that I've ever done. Every 5 minutes I started crying. Anyway, it was a very emotional time. Well, I suppose I was staying there on that bench for about maybe half an hour, 1 hour, sunbathing. I actually started to feel like I was getting sunburned, so I thought I should maybe leave. But then I thought, well, I'm gonna die anyway, so what does it matter if I get a sunburn? Then I started thinking about my tooth that I was going to fix, and I thought, who cares? I might just die anyway. There were lots of things like this going through my head. What's the point? Because I'm gonna die anyway. And then of course I had to call work and tell them about it. Everybody was in shock, and they said, yeah, just take a few days off and think about what you want to do. Well, fortunately, but I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but if you're thinking about quitting your work, just do not quit it, because you will find out that you are absolutely fine, you can function as before. It's just you need to motivate yourself, you need the money anyway to pay the rent, and you might have sick pay coverage or health insurance or any of those things, so just don't quit. Another advice I would give is to register on these brain tumor charity websites like the Brain Tumor Charity, the Brains Trust, the Ostro Brain Tumor Fund, and the Maggie's Centers. And there's another one called the Shine's Cancer Support for young people. These groups all have Facebook chat groups as well, which came in very helpful at the beginning, but I'm going to tell you more about it as well. But I decided I'm not going to go on these chat groups very much. More about that later. The most difficult bit for me was to digest this information and figure out what to do next. I suppose it's like when you are walking around in a forest and you suddenly get to the edge where you figure out it's a cliff edge, and if you step one more you will just fall into the sea and there is no more path or anything. So that was the most difficult for me, to figure out what next or how to even do it. Like I was thinking, what is the point of anything now? I've got a brain tumor, all the things I was planning are basically out of the window, and I was trying to figure out the implications of the brain tumor. And there were a ton of those, not going to fit into this single episode, but I guess in the next episode I will explain a lot of those, like losing my driver's license or not having travel insurance anymore, thinking about the side effects of the surgery, etc, etc. But I'm not going to carry on too much more now, because I think I've covered enough for this episode. Next time I'll tell you a lot more about that first week, what went through my head, and then what the doctors told me on Friday, and how the first meeting with the consultant went a couple of weeks later. But thanks for watching, and if you are interested in the next episode, please don't forget to subscribe.